He was just a single dad wiping tables in a fancy restaurant, exhausted and unnoticed. When he saw a small boy staring longingly at his meal, something inside him snapped, and he did something he wasn't supposed to. Moments later, the manager stormed over, furious, and fired him on the spot. But then she appeared, the boy's mother, a powerful billionaire CEO dressed in a sharp navy suit, her eyes cold and piercing. She looked at her son, then at the man who dared defy her rules, and whispered words that would change both their lives forever. No one saw it coming. David Reynolds, 35, a single father with dark hair streaked with gray, wiped down tables at La Verita, an upscale downtown restaurant. His white shirt was slightly stained, sleeves rolled up, and his black apron frayed at the edges, a testament to long hours and hard work. Despite exhaustion, his warm brown eyes radiated quiet kindness. David's life was a balancing act between raising his 6-year-old son, Liam, and making ends meet. Today, like most days, he felt the weight of the world pressing on his shoulders, but he never let it dim his empathy. Ethan Hartley, 8, a mute boy with expressive blue eyes and tousled blonde hair, entered the restaurant with his mother, Madeline Hartley, 42. Ethan wore a gray cardigan over a crisp white shirt, navy shorts, and polished brown shoes, his small hands gripping his mother's perfectly manicured fingers. Madeline, a self-made billionaire CEO, had shoulder-length blonde hair, sharp green eyes, and wore a tailored navy suit with matching heels. Her presence was commanding, a mix of elegance and authority. She moved silently through the dining room, observing her surroundings and her son with the precision of a strategist. Ethan's eyes drifted to a plate of spaghetti on a nearby table. David noticed instantly. Without thinking, he quietly walked over, knelt beside the boy, and placed a small plate of food in front of him. "Hungry?" he whispered, a soft smile on his face. Ethan's face lit up in silent gratitude, a rare sparkle of joy in a life often defined by limitations. Just as David straightened up, the restaurant manager, Mr. Collins, 55, tall and rigid, stormed over. His graying hair and pinched face reflected years of adherence to rules. "What do you think you're doing?" he barked, pointing at the plate. David's calm faltered. He didn't have lunch." "You're fired. Pack your things and leave, now!" Mr. Collins snapped, shoving a pink slip into David's hand. Guests turned to watch the confrontation, some whispering, others shifting awkwardly in their seats. David's hands trembled slightly, but he kept his composure. He had lost many things in life, but dignity was not one of them. Madeline stopped in her tracks. She had watched the entire scene unfold from a few tables away, her sharp green eyes narrowing as she processed what she had seen. Most would obey rules, most would stay silent, but not this man. Her son, Ethan, reached out to point toward David, as if to say, "He helped me." Madeline's breath caught. She walked toward David slowly, heels clicking against the polished floor, her gaze fixed on him with a mix of curiosity, calculation, and something else, a flicker of admiration. As David reached the door, resigned to losing his job and dignity, Madeline stopped him with a single question, her voice low but commanding. "Why would you risk everything for a stranger's child?" David froze. He had no idea that the woman asking the question was Ethan's mother, the billionaire CEO whose world revolved around precision, control, and power. Her words were a challenge, but also a test, and David's answer could change everything. The next day, David sat in his small, dimly lit apartment, staring at the pink slip in his hand. Liam, 6, was building a small tower with toy blocks on the carpet, humming softly. David's heart ached. Losing his job meant more than money. It meant instability, uncertainty for his son. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Meet me at La Verita, 7 p.m. Come alone." David frowned, skeptical. The handwriting, elegant and precise, matched the aura of the woman he had seen yesterday, the billionaire CEO, Madeline Hartley, 42. She was dressed yesterday in a navy suit. He could still picture her sharp green eyes, the way her blonde hair framed her face. With a sigh, he set the pink slip aside. Maybe this is a mistake. Maybe it's trouble waiting. But curiosity and a hint of hope won. That evening, David arrived at the restaurant. Madeline waited in a private room, the glow of a crystal chandelier reflecting off the polished oak table. She wore a dark emerald dress tonight, elegant yet understated, her hair pinned neatly back, emphasizing her sharp features. A glass of water sat untouched in front of her. "Sit," she said, voice calm, authoritative, yet softer than David expected. David, nervous but polite, obeyed. "You asked me to come?" "Yes," she replied, studying him carefully. "I want to know why you did what you did yesterday. You risked your job for my son. That's not something most people would do." David swallowed. He was hungry. I couldn't just... "You did more than feed him. You showed courage, and that's rare." Her words were genuine, but David felt the weight of her status, her power pressing on him like a physical force. As they talked, David shared glimpses of his life, the death of his wife 2 years prior, the struggles of raising Liam alone, the endless cycle of work and bills. He explained the small joys he clung to, reading bedtime stories, teaching Liam to ride a bike, making him laugh despite hardship. Madeline listened, eyes softening, but a shadow crossed her face. "I never imagined someone could live like that and still have so much heart." Her statement intrigued David. There was something buried beneath her wealth and success, something she didn't share. He sensed loneliness, perhaps even regret, hidden behind her sharp demeanor. Just as David began to relax, assuming this meeting was purely about curiosity, Madeline leaned forward, voice dropping to a near whisper. "There's something you don't know," she said. "I didn't just watch yesterday because I was curious. I needed to see someone brave enough to care, someone who could teach my son what I can't always give him." David blinked. The room seemed to shrink around him. Madeline's words revealed vulnerability, a crack in the armor of the untouchable billionaire. Before he could respond, the door opened suddenly. Ethan, her son, walked in quietly, wearing a small navy jacket over his gray shirt. He held a crumpled drawing of the spaghetti David had given him. His bright blue eyes met David's, filled with unspoken gratitude. Madeline smiled faintly, almost reluctantly, as Ethan placed the drawing on the table. "She likes you," she said simply. Scene 5. Seeds of Trust and Intrigue. David's heart pounded. This was no longer just a meeting. It was the beginning of something uncertain but compelling. Madeline's invitation hinted at opportunities and danger alike. "You're taking a risk meeting with me," she said, her voice dropping into that commanding tone again. "My world, it doesn't often welcome outsiders." "I know, but I can't just walk away from a child who needed me." Madeline's eyes flickered with something almost unrecognizable, respect, and maybe admiration. As David left the restaurant, uncertain of what would come next, a shadowy figure outside the restaurant made a discreet phone call. "She's talking to him," the figure whispered. "We need to watch. No mistakes." David had no idea. Being noticed by a billionaire was just the beginning. Someone else in Madeline's world might not want him there. Madeline invited David and Liam to a private charity event at her downtown penthouse. She wore a silver evening gown that shimmered under the soft chandeliers, her blonde hair styled elegantly. Ethan, her son, had a neat white shirt and navy trousers, looking small yet composed beside his mother. David, feeling out of place in his slightly worn dark suit and polished but ordinary shoes, held Liam's hand tightly. The room was filled with influential socialites and journalists, everyone moving with grace and intent, their conversations a blur of philanthropy and business. David felt like an intruder in a world he had never known. Despite the intimidating environment, David noticed Ethan gravitating toward him. The boy silently handed him a small hand-drawn picture of the spaghetti from the restaurant. David smiled warmly, kneeling to Ethan's level, and whispered, "You're a great artist, Ethan." Madeline watched from a distance, her green eyes softening as she observed the genuine connection. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of relief. Her son laughing, communicating without words, and David by his side, patient and kind. After the event, Madeline escorted David to a quiet balcony overlooking the city skyline. The air was cool and the lights twinkled like stars below. She leaned against the railing, her evening gown catching the breeze. "I know this is unusual," she said, her voice quieter than before. "Most people wouldn't risk so much for a child who isn't theirs." David looked at her earnestly. "Sometimes you don't think about rules. You just do what feels right." Her lips curved into a small, rare smile. There was admiration in her eyes, but also hesitation, an unspoken fear of opening her world to someone from outside her elite life. Meanwhile, outside the penthouse, the shadowy figure from Part 2 watched carefully. A man in a black coat, mid-40s, took notes as he spoke into a phone. "The single dad is getting too close. If she trusts him, it could ruin everything we've planned." Madeline had enemies, business rivals, schemers, and family members who would not approve of David's presence in her world. The tension was invisible to the partygoers inside, but David and Madeline's connection had already drawn attention, some friendly, some dangerous. The next morning, David returned to La Veritat to collect a few personal items. He was shocked to find a note pinned to the door. "Stay away from her family. This isn't your world." His pulse raced. The warning was anonymous, but unmistakably serious. Someone was watching him, someone powerful enough to know about Madeline and her family. David realized the stakes were higher than he thought. This wasn't just about kindness anymore. Madeline, aware of the note, invited David back for a private discussion. She was dressed in a crisp white blouse with navy trousers, her expression unreadable. "I don't know who sent this, but you're not alone. If anyone tries to intimidate you, they'll answer to me." David felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. He was grateful for her protection, but also aware that getting involved with her world meant danger, scrutiny, and potential heartbreak. That evening, Ethan sat beside David as he helped him with a small puzzle at Liam's modest apartment. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. A delivery envelope had been left at the door. Inside was a photo of David and Madeline from the charity event, taken secretly with a note. "You're in our sights. Back off or regret it." His hand trembled. Their worlds, Madeline's and David's, were colliding, and the challenges ahead were more dangerous than either of them could anticipate.
David couldn't sleep. The photo and threatening note haunted him. Liam, sleeping soundly nearby, stirred occasionally, unaware of the storm building outside. David ran a hand through his dark hair, now showing more streaks of gray from stress. Madeline called. Her voice was calm but urgent. "David, we need to meet. There's someone from my business circle who won't let us, happen without a fight." She was dressed in a tailored black blazer and matching skirt, her blonde hair perfectly in place, but the tension in her green eyes betrayed her usual composure. David nodded, understanding that whatever they faced was bigger than just their personal connection. It could threaten Ethan, Liam, and her reputation. Madeline brought David to her office in the skyscraper headquarters. Behind the polished glass windows, the city glittered below. She gestured toward a wall covered in family photographs, documents, and security reports. "This man, my business rival, he doesn't want anyone from outside controlling my son's upbringing. He's ruthless and, well, dangerous." David listened, heart racing. "So this warning, it's from him?" "Yes," Madeline said softly, sitting behind her mahogany desk. "He's been watching us for weeks. You're not just a single dad to him. You're a threat to him." Her vulnerability struck David. He had seen her as powerful, untouchable, but now he realized she carried the weight of responsibility and fear for her son every day. The next day, David returned to the restaurant to pick up a few personal items and found himself confronted by a stranger, mid-40s, sharp eyes, dark coat, who made a veiled threat about getting too close to Madeline. David held his ground, calm but resolute. "I'm not afraid to do the right thing. I'm not here to hurt anyone, just to protect the children." The man smirked, fading into the background, but the tension lingered. David realized protecting those he cared about would require courage far beyond everyday kindness. That evening, Madeline invited David and Liam over to her penthouse for a quiet dinner. She wore a soft cream blouse and dark skirt, her hair loose, framing her face in a relaxed elegance rarely seen in public. Ethan and Liam laughed over a small board game, David helping both boys with patience and care. Madeline watched from the couch, sipping wine, her heart softened by the genuine interactions. For a fleeting moment, the outside world, the threats, the wealth and power, all of it faded. The four of them were simply a family, imperfect but connected. Suddenly, the elevator bell rang. 2 security guards entered, followed by the shadowy man from before. "We need to talk," he said, calm but threatening. David instinctively stepped in front of the boys. Not here, not them. Madeline's eyes widened, but then she did something David hadn't expected. She stood beside him. "You want him? You'll have to go through both of us." The man hesitated. The scene escalated into a tense standoff, blending fear with courage. The audience is left holding their breath. That night, David lay awake again, Liam sleeping peacefully beside him. He realized that protecting these children and earning Madeline's trust wasn't just about kindness anymore. It was about courage, intelligence, and standing firm in the face of danger. Madeline, meanwhile, reflected on David's bravery. His actions, small at first, had now grown into something she couldn't ignore. A man whose heart, integrity, and courage were stronger than anyone in her elite world. The shadowy figure would not give up. A major confrontation was inevitable, and David would have to prove his worth in a moment that could change all their lives forever.
The night air was thick with tension. David stood in Madeline's penthouse, Liam clinging to his side, while Ethan peeked from behind his mother. The shadowy figure from before had cornered them, his expression cold and calculating. Madeline, dressed in a tailored deep blue blazer with black trousers, her blonde hair loose but sharp around her face, stepped forward. "You will leave or you face consequences," she said, her voice firm but controlled. David looked the man squarely in the eye. "I won't back down. Not from you. Not when it comes to protecting these children." The intruder smirked, underestimating the combined strength of David's courage and Madeline's authority. Before the man could act, security, pre-informed and loyal to Madeline, moved in. The intruder realized he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. With a final glare at David, he backed down, leaving the building under escort. David exhaled deeply, relief washing over him. The threat, though terrifying, had been neutralized. Madeline placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, a rare moment of tenderness in her usually unshakable demeanor. Later that evening, the four gathered in Madeline's living room. Ethan handed David a small handmade bracelet, a silent token of trust and gratitude. Liam hugged him tightly. Madeline watched the scene, eyes glistening with a mixture of pride, relief, and warmth. "You've shown courage, kindness, and patience," she said softly, "all the things that matter most." David, overwhelmed, realized how far he had come, from a single dad fired for doing the right thing to a man accepted, trusted, and admired by a billionaire CEO and her family.
Madeline, now more open and human than ever, invited David to join her charitable foundation, not just as an employee, but as a trusted partner and advisor, giving him stability and a chance to provide a secure life for Liam. The boys laughed as David showed them a new game, their voices filling the penthouse with warmth. Madeline smiled, leaning back, realizing that this union, unexpected, unconventional, yet genuine, had brought not only happiness to her son, but also to herself. David caught her gaze, understanding the silent message. This was a partnership in every sense: family, friendship, and maybe more. Weeks later, David and Madeline hosted a small family gathering at a local park. Neighbors, friends, and even a few restaurant staff joined. Ethan ran freely, laughing and pointing at a small cake David had prepared himself. Madeline whispered to David, "You've changed everything, not just for me, but for everyone around you." David smiled, looking at Liam and Ethan playing side by side. "No," he said gently, "we changed everything together." The audience sees a perfect tableau: the children happy, the adults smiling, and a sense of hope, love, and family overcoming fear, power, and adversity.
Sometimes one small act of kindness can change lives forever. David's courage to help a child led him into a world he never imagined, where bravery, compassion, and love overcame fear and power. Madeline learned the true value of trust, family, and connection, while the children experienced the joy of genuine care. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who believes in the power of goodness. Comment below your favorite moment and like and subscribe Heart and Soul Stories for more uplifting, heartwarming stories that remind us all, kindness is always noticed, courage is always rewarded.